a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Welcome to another episode of Talking Grit. I am Jason Harwood. With me is Jacob Litton. We both worked today. We worked so hard, man. So hard, Jacob. I was sitting on my butt all day. How about you?
Exactly. Sitting on your butt in your nice warm house. You have to worry about the cold that's coming through or the snow that's coming through. You just got a cush remote job.
Yep. It's great. And maybe you'll be there one day.
Yeah.
I want to thank everybody for following us, checking us out. You can check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, my hilarious takes are on Twitter at Talking Grit Pod. Jacob sometimes writes stuff. If it's not funny, it's probably something that he wrote. So make sure you like and subscribe so you can keep up to date on all the stuff we're doing here at Talking Grit. Just Jacob and I today. We had Al on last episode. Great. We got Brian from Passing Type going to be on. Morgan Cannon. We're trying to figure out a time where he could jump on. Eric Schlitt's going to come on during draft time. That's already been confirmed. So we're working
Can't
through
wait.
some guests. I mean, we got to have Ash back on. We've already been talking with him. I love having Ash on. We just haven't. He got a new job. The schedule's a little funky right now, but he'll be back on.
Plus, it doesn't help that he's all the way over in the UK. So scheduling time constraints are a little different.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the thing a few episodes ago. I called us like the vampires of Detroit Lions content because we're going on, so late at night.
Oh,
And so he messaged back and said, what does that make us? Because he's always up at 2 or 3 in the morning when he's talking with us.
good point.
Yeah, very good point. At least he didn't say you guys are the vampires of podcasts because you suck or something like that. That would be that
Would have been a good
line.
opportunity for a burn, right?
Yeah, it would have. Maybe they're the werewolves. They're out like when there's a full moon. Or maybe we're the werewolves because we're only good once in a blue moon or something like that. We could say something like that. I'm good at burning ourselves.
That right. It's not the way burns are supposed to work, Jason.
No,
I know you've heard a lot of them in your life directed at you, but you're supposed to try to direct at other people.
I know. That's where the comedy gene comes from. It's, I was always a small guy, nerdy guy in high school. So it was my protective reflexes, the comedy thing.
Yeah, nice.
I am kind of used to that with you being a bully. So reliving my high school days.
Okay.
Mr. Cool over here.
Yeah.
Talking about, Ash has new jobs. There's some coaches that got some new jobs, Jacob. We got 5 new head coaches so far. Well, 4 officially, 1, sort of unofficial at this point. I don't think it's been officially announced. So you want to go through who the new head coaches are? And we'll get some brief thoughts on, each one.
Yeah, real quick, I'll rattle them off. So the New York Giants have hired John Harbaugh. That was the biggest one, right? Moving on, Baltimore Ravens went with Jesse Minter, who was the defensive coordinator for the Chargers. The Dolphins got Jeff Hafley, NFC North, opponent there. Titans not officially announced, but it sounds like they are like hammering out the details of the contract with Robert Saleh from the 49ers. And then the Falcons got Kevin Stefanski from the Browns. So no real surprises, I would say, yet. A lot of familiar names on this list for sure.
Yeah. Minter was interesting, went back to the Ravens. So it's not all that surprising that he went back. That also means that Jim Harbaugh, has to get a new OC and DC. Got the OC already, got McDaniel, but now he's going to have to find a new defensive coordinator. Their defense was pretty solid last year. So that's going to be tough for them to replace that.
Did you see the name? You see who they are going to interview for the defensive coordinator? Aubrey Pleasant. Aubrey Pleasant, who was from the Lions. He was, I think he was like the passing game coordinator, right?
He was the defensive backs coach when he got canned because it was right after that Miami game where basically he was kind of doing his. What was said was that he was doing his own thing, and not following the plan that AG had set up, and so they got rid of him.
Right.
But by all accounts, people liked him. It wasn't like that. It was, he just wasn't
Right.
following the team code. But he went right back to the Rams, and yeah, I mean, I think he's highly respected. I mean, every time someone talks about him, I hear positive things.
Right.
Just didn't work out in Detroit. Uh, John Harbaugh getting the Giants was the first one to fall. Sounds like he's getting like full everything. He's reporting directly to the owner. They're kind of cleaning house out there, but they still have the same GM. So we'll see how that works out. I wouldn't be surprised that you get an announcement that the GM's been canned at some point. John Harbaugh's just got to the owner and said, yeah, we need to move on.
Well, they just signed him to an extension, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
didn't make sense. I mean, I've let it be known. You know that I don't like. That makes no sense to me why they continue to keep him going, especially when they've got the new quarterback and now that they have a new head coach. And I'm sure that was probably one of those details that they had to hammer out with John Harbaugh was to deal with the GM.
Mm-hmm.
To figure out the logistics of how they're going to work together and what the long term goal is going to be. So, yeah.
Yep. Jeff Halfley getting him out of the division, huge. Super happy to hear that he's going to be down there. What's JJ, your son, think about that? Is he happy with the hire?
He's not. I guess he's impartial to it. Wasn't very
Okay.
exciting for him, but I don't know that there would have been one that was like super exciting. So at the same time, I also do not like. I would like if Brian Flores was out of the division, but as far as Halfley goes, it's not like, oh man, thank God we don't have to play against his defense anymore. Not that not that big on exactly what he's doing. I know the Packers have a good defense, and this guy's got plenty of experience. He absolutely seems like he is in line for a head coaching job. So best of luck to him over there in the AFC. Makes no difference to us over here.
No, I was glad to get him out of the division. I think he had a pretty sound defensive plan, much better than the previous defensive coordinator they had of Green Bay. So I don't know who they're going to hire in there. But speaking of Brian Flores, who you mentioned, he's got his second interview with the Steelers. Now I know he just signed an extension with the Vikings. So it either means basically, from what I've seen for interviewing, it's either going to be the Steelers head coach or back with the Vikings. So I am hoping, beyond all hope, that he's with the Steelers and we don't have to deal with him in Minnesota.
I think that makes a lot of sense for him in Pittsburgh too.
Yeah.
Taking over the defense and everything, and just that seems like a Brian Flores job is the Pittsburgh Steelers job. I will say that was interesting. Like in my experience, I don't know that I've seen that where he's actively interviewing for head coaching jobs, then he signs an extension with the stipulation like, hey, if he doesn't get one, he'll come back with his contract extension.
Yeah.
That kind of was weird to me, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just the Vikings kind of making a last ditch effort to be like, hey, we're going to give you a raise. We really want you here. We understand that you're exploring other opportunities. We'll let you do that. But maybe they're just trying to make him second guess it, or I don't know.
Well, the last thing they want him to do is interview with Steelers, realize, hey, I kind of like this organization. They get a head coach over there that he feels comfortable working with, and then he jumps
right,
ship
just
over
to be
there.
The DC.
So the Vikings, wanted to make sure that he stayed there, and I don't blame him. I mean, he's put up a solid defensive plan, and to be honest, that defense is, they've gotten a bunch of free agents last year to fill out to fill what Brian Flores wants, and if Brian Flores isn't there, those players may not work out. So, I could understand them wanting to keep him in there. Kevin Stefanski with the Falcons. I think that's important for the Lions, and why with the Drew Petzing thing, because Stefanski and Petzing were close. Stefanski thinks very highly of Petzing, and it may have been the reason why the Lions moved on Petzing when they did, because Stefanski might have had him pegged for offensive coordinator. So I think that's interesting. You don't see too many people from that get fired from the Browns and then immediately get hired in that same coaching cycle. So that's crazy to me.
Right. Yeah.
And then
we have to look how many people get fired from the Browns and get another shot at head coaching.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the Lions. Well, I mean, Belichick did, right? So that's a huge one.
I thought Belichick got traded. He got fired from the Browns.
He got fired from the Browns, and then I think he went back to the Giants, did defensive coordinator, and then that whole Jets Patriots thing where he hired with the Jets and then stepped down and then took over the Patriots. Like that whole situation was wild.
I
But
don't. Right. All I know Belichick is that Patriots forever.
yeah,
And then he went to the North Carolina.
yeah,
Real
yeah,
quick, let me rattle these off. Stefanski, obviously, you just said. Freddie Kitchens, Greg Williams, Hugh Jackson, Mike Pettin, Rob Chudzinski, Pat Shermer, Eric Mangini, Romeo Crennel, Terry Robisky, Butch Davis, Chris Palmer, and then Bill Belichick was from 91 to 95.
Yep.
So of all those head coaches, I don't think no one jumps out at me on that list that got another opportunity after that.
Not as head coach. I mean, but the Lions typically don't, their head coaches, once they don't become head coaches, they're done. But Swartz might change that this year because he's up.
True.
He might become,
Or,
he might
just in
become
the future,
Browns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that's just because of the Lions and Browns like hiring process, like not hiring the right or like qualified people? Or do you think it's just because of how bad the teams, because if it really truly is ownership and general manager and like a combination of everything, then you'd think these head coaches would have more chances elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some of it's just the general stink of, having those franchises on you. Um, And I look at, it's like the Lions went with Mariucci, right? Like success at
Right.
49ers. He could have probably had another chance, but I think he was just done with coaching. Um, who was the off morning wag? You know, he killed any head coaching opportunity when he took the wind in overtime.
Yeah.
I mean, regardless of what you think about that, that just got to stick in people's mind. Then he went to be an OC at Philadelphia and had some success there during the Andy Reid years. So he was still a good coach in this league for a while. So he did get an opportunity to just no other head coach. Caldwell did interview. I think he interviewed maybe for the floor for Miami. I think he interviewed with someone for head coach after Detroit. So he might have had a shot. He would have been like a safe pick. I mean, Caldwell was known as a good coach. He just wasn't flashy at all.
He interviewed with the Packers.
Did he? Okay. I didn't know about that, or at least if I did, I forgot about it. So
Matt Patricia
during the Matt
deserve another
LaFleur
chance.
cycle, like they hired LaFleur instead of
I
Caldwell?
think it was like right after, or like was he off a year?
Not sure. That's interesting.
Caldwell right now is a senior assistant with the Panthers.
Yeah, yeah. Guy was well liked when he was here. It just didn't work out, and then of course we hire Patricia instead of someone that actually did some good.
Yeah.
What do you think about Saleh going to the Titans?
Yeah, right. Interesting. Similar to a Vrabel type. I don't know that that's going to work out, but I think that Saleh deserves another chance. Caldwell interview with the Packers, Jets, and Browns in 2018.
Okay. I know you could say, you could have the pessimistic look that, they hired, they interviewed him just to fulfill the, minority thing. But I think Caldwell was, well enough respected that, he had a realistic shot at those jobs.
Right.
Yeah, Saleh getting hired. It's interesting, getting the second chance already. He probably got a rough deal with the Jets. That's another that franchise that you could have some stink from, right? The Jets just
right.
Coming off that. What job we'll talk about the Bills stuff in a little bit here. So you got the Bills, Steelers, who else is left here? Help
Cardinals.
Me out. Cardinals, yeah. No one's beating down the door for that franchise right now.
Exactly, right. That might be the last one that gets filled.
Oh, man. Yeah. People are canceling their interviews out there. That ownership out there is terrible. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see who signs up, because then
Bills,
these guys are going to start
Steelers, Raiders, Browns, Cardinals.
Raiders, Browns, Cardinals, yeah. The Raiders one, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't filled that yet. I thought that that would be an early one to go. With Brady being involved, I'm kind of surprised that's not, and having the number one pick.
Right.
I thought that might have some motion to it, but
Usually the appeal is there. Number one pick, you're getting quarterback.
yep,
This is your chance
yeah,
to turn around the franchise, clean slate, and it also gives you that leeway of maybe having two. You can have 2 bad years before they start looking at moving on. One's not going to do you in.
right.
I say that, but the Raiders have not been giving more than 1 year to turn it around.
No, no. I was surprised that they didn't just go all in on Harbaugh. Like Harbaugh just seems like a guy that they'd want to have in there. The big name, the splash name. That's where the Raiders usually type to go to. Mark Davis out there.
True.
All right, let's move on to some just either some divisional game reactions, but first it's a couple Lions thing. Real quickly, Dan Skipper announces retirement. Uh, good for Skip. Looks like he's moving right into coaching. The writing was on the wall when he didn't even make the team out of training camp. Jamarco Jones made the team over him. Uh, they used him less and less this year. Injuries were piling up. So it did not surprise me that they announced his retirement. Maybe that takes the safety blanket off for the Lions and just gives us another roster spot where we can either develop someone or, get some more competition here. Do you have any thoughts on Skipper announcing his retirement?
Yeah. I mean, good for Skip. I mean, like you already said, it kind of knew that it was leading to this. If he wasn't going to retire, it would have been very hard for him to try to go elsewhere and make another roster. He
Mhm.
had the good thing going here with obviously with Dan Campbell and with the coaching staff and just, being able to move around, be helpful. He played in 69 games total in his career. 16 of those were he started 16 games. All of them were for the Lions. And then he caught 2 passes and 1 touchdown against the Bills.
Yep.
So I want to know, in your opinion, will he be remembered more for being the offensive lineman that ran routes and caught the touchdown? Or do you think he'll just go down in Lions history as, Skipper, the one who reported?
He's always going to go down as the reported because, even
Yeah.
in his retirement, he said reporting one last time. The crowd there, anytime they announced that he was, reporting eligible, they would get excited. I still think, the whole Dallas thing, even though it really, really sucked, but it made him infamous, right? I mean, it put him just in a certain lore with the Lions as far as getting screwed. I mean, Taylor Decker was the one that was supposed to catch that pass, but it was, Skip. They announced
He did catch that pass.
Yeah,
he did score.
He did. Yeah, I know. So I'm kind of glad the Lions are moving on, but Skipper will be. I'm sure we'll see some Skipper jerseys. People will wear, as a, I'm a true Lion fan because I know who Dan Skipper is, type thing.
Yeah, right. And there's a chance Skipper has not, had his last days in Detroit. He's
That's
wanting to
correct.
be a coach. Dan Campbell likes it. I mean, there's a chance he could come on as a coaching assistant and,
Yep.
make something
That
out of
would
it here. So
that would not surprise me to see him in training camp this year as a
right.
very, Hank Fraley assistant, just,
Exactly.
hey, let's get him some coaching jobs. He is going to be coaching in the East-West game the East-West Shrine game. So he's already starting to, do that. That's a volunteer thing. So who knows who'll put him on his staff. But yeah, it would not shock me to see him on the line in Lions training camp this year.
For sure.
All right. The next Lions biz that I want to talk about is catching fire a little bit. Amon Ra, I don't know how I want to say it, calling out Lions fans, his reaction to Lions fans' reaction of Drew Petzing. You and I talked about a little bit before this, that we saw it right away, posted on Twitter. So, what were your initial thoughts when you saw what Amon Ra said?
So when I saw this was like very early in the morning when they had posted a short about it. So this is before it like caught fire and blew up and everything like that. And as I'm watching the video, I was like, oh, that makes sense. He's right. He said, the big issue I think is when he said they don't know much about ball. And it didn't help that EQ was like, wow, like right away, kind of adding fuel to the fire as they do.
Yes.
Like that's typically. So
Yes.
then Amon Ra quickly, he's like, I love all Lions fans, but they are so quick to judge. He said, just relax and let it all play out. That's what pretty much every knowledgeable Lions fan has said. right? That's what
Yes.
we've been talking about. Like, you
Mhm.
can't just, call for Dan Campbell's head, or that, this is such a terrible hire and what are you guys doing? This is a waste of time. You can't, you do have to relax. You do have to kind of let it play out. I
Yep.
was surprised that fans like took that. Some fans took it and ran with it. I also think media, like 97 won the ticket, ran a whole thing about that in Woodward Sports as well. I don't know if they're trying to turn on Amon Ra or whatever. It's clickbait, right? I mean, they're just trying
Yes.
to make something out of nothing. But in my opinion, I don't think he said anything, outlandish or anything that was not true.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
feel about it? Like when you first saw it, before you saw it before it blew up as well, right? So like
Yes.
you just
I
saw
saw it
this
same
before
time as you.
you
Woke up,
knew other
just saw the
reaction.
thing,
Yeah.
and I haven't even really seen too much of the reaction. I just knew it was gonna garner a reaction, a strong one, because he's basically saying what we had said, but it's coming from Amon Ra, and he that thing EQ when he made that noise. I was like, oh my god, he's gonna draw attention, like he's calling out people, and really he's saying what we've been saying, and a lot of like knowledgeable Lions fans, like we don't know, we're not going to know what we have with Petzing for a while, and uh, I like how I guess Dan Campbell, he just sent him a text saying we're going to be good, that type of stuff. The thing I want to point out to you, I want to know what you thought about this. Like he said, do not trust Dan Campbell. So what was your reaction when you heard that? Did anything pop in your head or any thoughts when Amon Ross, basically was talking to Lions fans saying, do not trust Dan Campbell? Did you have any thoughts on that statement in general?
That did not trigger anything for me. I mean, in hindsight, when you think about do you not trust Dan Campbell, you'd be like, well, I mean, we did go through a bad coordinator last year. So
Hmm.
I think that plays into it to a certain extent. The fact that
Yeah.
we already had somebody that was one and done.
Yeah.
What about you
And I
though? Like,
think
is that what you?
that's what I kind of thought too. You've hired Anthony Lynn. You've already had two offensive coordinators where you basically taken the play call and duty away from them. But you did hire Ben Johnson, who, by all accounts, people want to think that like Ben Johnson was some slam dunk when he hired him. I remember when he was hired, people were like generally disappointed. We're gonna just, move this guy up. He's a tight ends coach. He, all this type of stuff. And then he came in and the offense was amazing, and it ended up being an amazing hire and great for Ben Johnson's career. Obviously, he got that coaching gig from this. So I mean, I think it's okay to like question it because two out of the three hires have been iffy. I'm willing to give him a pass on Anthony Lynn. I think Anthony Lynn was a solid choice. Your first year head coach, Anthony Lynn was just a head coach the previous season. So you're bringing him in as, a sounding board for Dan Campbell, someone else to, run things by. It, I just praise Dan Campbell that he knows when things aren't working and he's not afraid to make a difficult choice in the midseason. So, if Petzing doesn't work out, that Dan Campbell's gonna be able. He has the chops to go in there and doing it. I think you and I both don't want him in that position. I don't want him to be there. I want Petzing to have success and call plays and stuff. But we know that Dan Campbell's the fail safe in this whole thing.
Two things. First thing, since you just mentioned that though, is
Yeah.
do you think he's more hesitant to pull play calling duties because of that history and because of the perception and because like, man, we really need to make sure we get this one right? Do you think that he waits and gives it a little bit longer? Like maybe the same thing, maybe it's like I've got to take these over in like week 8. Does he get in his own head and does he think about perception? Does he think about how the team is doing and how it'll be received? And does he wait a few more weeks or wait it out? Or do you
You
think
know,
it just doesn't play in his mind at all?
I think that's a very good question, and I think that definitely thought goes in your head. But I think Dan just is team first, and it's going to be whatever the team needs. Is really uh, what I think he would do. Like, hey, this isn't working. I need to make we need to make a change. I mean, he could have had that thought last year too, right? Like, I've already done this once, and now
Right.
we're gonna do it. I've hired John Morton. I mean, that had to be a tough conversation to tell John Morton, who had previous history with Dan, previous history with the Lions, and say, we're taking play calling away from you. And by the way, you still have to do a weekly press conference where you have to get up front and talk to everybody. Like that. I mean, that's crazy that they made him put him up, put him up there to talk. And I know a lot gets made
That's
of
tough.
where people said that John Morton threw the players under the bus, and I don't buy that at all. Like, I know what he said. He goes, the players just aren't executing. But if you listen to Dan, he said the same thing. He's like, we're one player is making a mistake here, and I don't think that John Morton threw the players under the bus. He basically, was saying, we're just not, everybody's not doing their job at the same time.
I think it was perceived as like deflecting sort of the blame and sort of kind of protecting. He's like, the play
Yeah,
calls are good, the play calls are there, the execution is not. And
right.
while what he said was true, and you can go back and see, like, okay, yeah, the offensive linemen are running different plays from each other. The
Yeah,
execution is not there. But at the same time, it's part of that accountability from the top down. And yeah, it just didn't. And you're right. I think Dan Campbell, he said the same thing not long after that. It was like maybe
right.
they asked him about it that same week or the next week.
Yeah,
So,
he
it's
said
weird.
the
He
same
just didn't
thing, and
have
I
as
don't
long of a
think.
leash.
And yeah, well, John Morton also didn't. It wasn't like he said, I'm absolved of all things." He even said that, I have to call plays better. I have to do this stuff. So he did follow that up, but people didn't like John Morton, and so they're jumping. They're going to jump right on that. But I don't think that that's why Dan Campbell took play calling duties away from him. I just think that the player. I think there was probably some stuff said, like, they probably went to Amon-Ra, Jared Goff, and that was a decision that Dan made with them, in mind, is what basically what I'm seeing now. But who knows? I I I hope this Amon Ra thing, doesn't go too crazy. But it doesn't surprise me that Woodward Sports would, you know, latch onto that because it's, you know, obviously a
Yeah,
lightning storm
right.
right now.
Well, something falsely going around too, and like you mentioned it, is that they're not giving Dan Campbell any credit for Ben Johnson. They're,
Yeah,
saying, well, Ben Johnson was here with Matt Patricia. So, like,
yeah,
Dan Campbell came in and Ben Johnson was already here and you inherited him. And that's not true. I mean, yes, he was already here, but Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson worked together in Miami,
right.
and he actually promoted Ben Johnson in Miami. So then when
Mm,
he moves into Detroit, he already has a good relationship. He already knows what he has in Ben Johnson.
yeah.
So then he promotes Ben Johnson to tight ends coach like that first year. So I mean, I think that's
Well,
just a different way to dig, as if as if our offensive coordinator hiring has always been bad and that we kind of just lucked into Ben Johnson already being here.
well, I mean, like I said earlier, like that he didn't. I mean, he hired Ben Johnson, so for offensive coordinator, he could have went out. I mean, I'm sure he interviewed other candidates. He absolutely deserves credit for bringing up Ben Johnson because that's a tough gig. Like that's a brand new OC, and you're heading into year two, right? Like if he makes that and that offense doesn't jump, it's that's not good. It's not good for you at all.
Right.
Our one of our favorite listeners, WMW, said, "What? Detroit media overreacting to something? No,
Yeah.
never. Yeah,
Shocker.
100% right on there. And you get it. It's like, I mean, I don't know if we're guilty of it right now. I think we got a pretty level head about stuff, and we're not going to be, um, we're not hot takey about it, but we certainly are talking about it. But I think we also have a level head about stuff. But there are certain writers, certain publications that obviously want, you know, want to have that take so that people click on their stuff and listen to their stuff.
Of course. Real quick before we
Speaking of,
move on from Morton, I was just gonna
yeah, I was gonna
say
say,
he
go ahead.
yeah, he was hired as a consultant for the Broncos. So John Morton was the passing game coordinator in Denver for 2023-2024, and in the 2023 season was with Russell Wilson, but he also was coaching Jarrett Stidham, who's going to be the one starting in the AFC Championship.
Hmm.
So I think Denver probably saw an opportunity to get him back and just to ensure that Jarrett is as comfortable and as ready as he possibly can be. So they're bringing in somebody familiar, the passing coordinator from a few years ago. So,
Yeah, he's
best of luck to
worked
the
with Sean
Broncos. They
Payton.
have their work cut out.
They do, and we'll talk about that when we get to our picks later on. I thought it was interesting that he got a job. Good for Morton. I mean, moved on, whatever. I have no ill will towards him.
Right.
Uh, Speaking of the Broncos, the Bo Nix injury, what did you like? That was a shock when it happened. But then when we saw the play that it happened on, I was also like, oh my god. So what's your thoughts on that whole situation?
I didn't even realize that he was hurt like that. Until like it was like 30 minutes after the game or whatever when they were like he's out for the season. They had that stupid quarterback run. I think that was on second down where they had like the quarterback sweep that he got hurt on. Then they take that deep shot. He's got that deep lob ball that gets the PI call, and the, the rest is history. Broken ankle after right after the game. Terrible timing, especially if you're a Broncos fan, right? Like you're feeling so good after that win, and it just deflated.
Yeah.
Although, like positive side, like it wasn't like an Achilles or a knee injury or anything like that. It's a broken bone. So chances are he's going to be good by the time next season comes around. But that doesn't help you when you're, trying to win a Super Bowl now, and it was right within your grasp.
Yeah. One play away. You got the home game too, right? Your number 1 seed. I could tell you this before any of this. I don't even know if I texted you at the time. I hated that play, running Bo Nix out there like on a called outside run. Like it's like this is the dumbest call I've ever seen. I don't know what they were thinking, and it's one thing if he's out scrambling or whatever freak things happen, but you're putting him in harm's way on purpose on a outside design run. He's going to get hit. I just don't understand.
Yeah, right. My friend is a Broncos fan, and right after it happened, I was like, "Man, that's tough." But right after, I had texted him. I was like, "That's tough." Said, "But you know what? Nick Foles came in and won a Super Bowl. Won the Super Bowl for the Eagles." And then I don't know if you saw Nick Foles had sent out a tweet that night. Did you see his tweet that he sent?
I did. I saw that.
I feel for Bo and the team, sending prayers for a strong recovery. A positive note going to the game versus the Patriots is that they struggle against backup quarterbacks in championship type games. And that's hilarious. That's an all-time tweet.
That is awesome. I think it's gonna be a huge mountain to overcome getting your first start in the championship game.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to lean on that defense. We'll see. I mean,
which makes it possible. They have a great defense, right? And that makes it possible. They can hold on long enough. They're at home.
Go from one quarterback to another. CJ Stroud. I just want to talk about the playoffs that he had, and are you really worried about signing him to the 5th-year option now? Like that whole thing blows my mind. So what's your thoughts on CJ Stroud?
I mean, just awful. I don't understand it at all either. I mean, he threw 4 interceptions, and like most of these were really, really bad throws. Either terrible decisions or just flat out bad throws.
Yeah.
And then when he wasn't throwing picks, he was still just missing his guys. He was not able to make the throws. I don't know what was happening. It was not like that pressure was in his face the entire time either. And his defense kept them in that game as long as possible. But I've got here, the Texans got 15 drives in the game. 10 of them lasted less than 2 minutes. And then one of them that lasted just about 2 minutes was one where he threw a pick 6.
Mm-hmm.
So not only are you not doing your defense a favor, you're, making the odds worse by giving them points.
Yeah. He looked like going in like to halftime, I was convinced Davis Mills should come in because Stroud just not only were his throws off, he reminded me of like when you get a ton of pressure on Jared Goff and then, everything's just a little bit off. You're dirting things. And that's the way Stroud, he just looked shook, like bad. And I was like, that was the thing.
This was
their
like,
defense
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the defense was so good. You just needed to not turn the ball over. Like, give your, all you need to do is score a few points. Like Stroud, like you said, gifted them a touchdown with a pick 6. It was just, he looked bad, and that would worry me going forward. Now, I think the Texans are a lot fault because their offensive line is, really, really bad. But, it would scare me going forward with him.
True, but I mean, he has done enough, and I don't know that you have a better option. Like, do you really want to draft a quarterback and go back into like I don't. If anything, maybe he's played his way out of like a top tier contract. they may have to have some discussions about money over there. But I was just gonna try to, it's similar to like when you can tell a pitcher, like you got a World Series game, right? And the pitcher gets rattled, and all of a sudden he's giving up runs, he's hitting batter, he's not doing well, and then you can tell by like the second inning, you're like, man, we're gonna have to pull, like no matter who it is, we're gonna have to pull, we're gonna have to go to the bullpen. And then it like his body language and everything was the same kind of way where he was almost like defeated, it wasn't working, it wasn't happening. And if it was baseball, you would have called in another pitcher, like you said, for
Yes.
Davis Mills to come back in. It's just way different in football. It's even more deflating and more defeating for you to go to Davis Mills. And then if you do, and then Davis Mills struggles, do you put CJ back in? Like, what do you, it just all around so bad.
It was the body. You're right. The body language was terrible too. On top of that, and that's what it's like. He's dirting throws. He just looks like he can't believe what's going on. But in the interceptions weren't necessarily like, hey, we're jumping routes or whatever. A lot of these were just like behind throw, like they were just really bad throws,
Right.
or the timing was way off. I know that the weather played a factor, but um, it was it was bad. Yeah, it's WMW said Texas defense has done enough to win, but the offense just can't get it done. And that
That's true.
defense has been unreal. I want to give you some flowers here, Jacob. Dynasty Lions. I don't know if you saw his message on our not the last podcast, but the previous podcast. He's saying high profit because of your whole Rashid Shaheed take.
Yeah.
When he
See?
gets the opening kickoff, and we talked about that like in the trade podcast, and that I don't think that's a hugely publicized trade, but it obviously started them off and got a touchdown right away in that game against the
Set the
49ers.
tone
So
for the game.
it did. It did. It was amazing. He had a big catcher in that game too. Pretty big gainer. I don't know what it was, but I know he had a big catch. Jimmy Thompson. I don't remember him commenting before. So welcome to the show, Jimmy. It says choosing an OC that will be able to work with that coach has the kind of influence, fingerprints on play calling and scheme that Dan does is not easy. Maybe the OC is a good fit for Dan. And we're certainly going to figure that out. And I think it's right. Dan has a certain way that he wants the offense or the game to run. And, that's why he takes over play calling, right? Because he knows what's in his head, and that's hard to get through. So maybe he'll use the experience from last year to his benefit. Like maybe he'll communicate better or have some idea better of how to get things going. But also, I wondered if Dan just fell in the trap with John. Like we've worked with, I've worked with John before. He's going to know exactly what I want, and then it just didn't work out, and he was just kind of disappointed in that whole thing.
True.
So we'll see.
Took a shot, didn't work.
I am expecting a fired up coaching staff, a fired up team. They're not going to want to finish fourth place. I mean, it's not in our DNA. I am expecting all business next year. I know we finished fourth place, but we were also above 500. We would have won the South, the NFC South. So it's like, yeah, people want to latch on to last place or whatever, and I get it. And we did earn fourth place in our division, but it's not like we were won 3 games. We're last place in our division and picking 17th in the draft. We had a solid record. We just couldn't put it together for the season. But I am expecting that to drive this team and this franchise forward this year, and we'll reap the benefits of a fourth place schedule too.
Yeah, right. We better.
Yep. All right. There's the Sean McDermott firing was surprising to me. I did not expect that to happen. And then the weird press conference after just blew my mind totally. The whole Bills situation is weird. Is this a situation where you're going to get worse? You think you're going to get better, and you're going to get worse? I'm getting that feeling. What's your thoughts, Jacob?
I feel the exact same way. They're so close for so long. They're like, man, what do we need to push us over the edge? And then they decide, you know what? We're going to make a change at the top. We're going to obliterate the coaching staff. We're going to keep the GM, but we're going to get rid of the coaching staff. Also, like, I just don't know. who's out there? Like, what coach is out there that you think immediately steps in is going to be able to just take your team to the next level without having any sort of growing pains? Or, Sean McDermott is a defensive coach, right? And they're all about
Yeah.
Josh Allen and everything. I'm sure whoever they hire is going to be more offense oriented. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have any more success than you did before. So, I mean, I can't say I was too surprised. Like, I could see that happening. It was still a little, weird to see it. And I mean, was he made the playoffs 7 of the 8 years that he was there or something like that,
Yeah.
and they made 2 conference championship games. There's, I mean, it's like the Super Bowl thing, right? Like, how many times can you count that the Bills were like so close and had something happen right there at the end where it just
Yeah.
was ripped away from them and it just didn't go their way, including this year. If they would have called that a catch instead of a pick, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the whole press conference just made everything worse.
Yeah.
He stood by the GM, and then they call out Keon Coleman, and like, what
It's
are
a
you
terrible
guys
look.
doing right now?
It's a
What are you
terrible look. You don't
Right.
throw players under the bus like that. That I don't care. Like, he's trying to protect the GM right there, and that's all emotional
Yeah.
reaction right there. But what you have to think about is what the players see on the outside. Like, oh my God, they don't respect the players. They're gonna throw you under the bus as soon as it doesn't work out in your way. Like, that's a conversation that maybe you have with the team. If you want to be able to talk like that, like if you want to instill confidence, but I just don't see how any of that was beneficial. And, they interviewed Brian Dayball, who was the OC, left to be the coach of the Giants. But, you look at what Dayball did with the Giants. Like you said, are we going to get who's going to come in there that's going to do better? Dayball didn't do jack with the Giants, and now you're going to expect him to come over and like all of a sudden he's going to do this. I equate it to firing Caldwell and bringing in Patricia. Oh, we need to take the next step. I know we just
Ouch.
made the playoffs, and then you tank it, right? You get the wrong guy in there, and it's really easy to do that. And I can understand the frustration that you get so close. And like we had talked about leading into the playoffs, the Chiefs aren't there. The big bad guy for the Bills isn't there. So this is the year they got to get it done. Um, it didn't work out, but I don't really see that was McDermott's fault. Now maybe I feel different if I'm a Bills fan and I've been dealing with getting so close, but I think it was a made out of emotion. And I think that press conference showed it because he's already in there backing up everything and trying to justify what he did. Like, I just don't understand that. Like, that just sounds you're insecure about the decision, the way all that reacted, how they reacted.
And when they asked him, like, why did he make the move? He said, if you were in that locker room and you could see how defeated everyone was, I saw my quarterback, head down, crying, everyone hanging their heads and everything. And at that point, I knew a decision had to be made. You're basically just openly saying, like, hey, everyone was upset. I'm upset. I felt like,
Yeah.
this was an emotional, it was an impulse reaction now. Like, I did not fully think this through based on, how defeated and how dejected everyone was. Of course they are. You lost a
Yeah.
close game in the playoffs in a year where you thought that you really had a good chance to take it,
Mm-hmm.
which they did. I mean, we've said
Yeah.
it all along. It's any given Sunday, and they've got a good squad. They're, just as capable as anybody else. They could have won all the way. They didn't. Obviously, that's a tough pill to swallow. It's tough to take in that locker room. But for you to, and the stuff about Keon Coleman, I didn't see what he said. I read what he said, and I read the context kind of like as he was saying it. And I think being the GM kind of walked back and said, like, that was my pick. I made that pick. I've never, I would never make a pick thinking that it wasn't going to work out or without the full confidence. And then, he kind of defends it too and says it's not necessarily on field issues. It's the off the field stuff with Keon that he's trying to work through. He's still a young player. I think that I think the GM said all the right things, but it was the owner and everything that he had said to damage it already that was like, you've made this place a lot less appealing for people, players and coaches alike. So,
Yes.
which is still, if you look at the jobs left, that's still the one where you compete right away. Right,
Yes.
that's the one that you want.
We
Is
got
you want
Josh
to go to the
Allen.
Bills if you're a coach, right?
You got an
Yeah,
MVP quarterback.
that's the one that you want. But now
Yeah.
I wonder, do they, because Dayball's got the history there and everything, like, do they just get Dayball back? And if they do, does that take you to the next level? It just doesn't feel like it would.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not saying that he can't do it. And he definitely had his difficulties with the GM and the Giants as far as like losing Saquon
Right.
and stuff that he dealt with there. but also Dayball wasn't perfect going into the tent when Jackson Dart's in the concussion tent. Like that's like a huge red flag. Like that, you're willing to skirt the rules to help your team out, and I'm not about that. Like, so I don't know. Like, and the thing is that like okay, and what really makes it difficult for me is that you're 2 weeks behind because you fired him after the divisional round. So every other team has had like 2 weeks of interview, 2 weeks of prep, and you've kind of already admitted that you basically did this out of emotion. So it tells me that you probably weren't prepping for this at all. And now, you got to have all these interviews and top candidates are already, you know, on other teams.
Exactly.
And so now you're interviewing Dayball and, the man, Dayball will be the third coach that goes from head coaching one team and then to another team this year. That would directly after Harbaugh and Stefanski, it'd be and then yeah. So it blows my mind. Uh, well, I say kind of save the best for last as far as what we're going to talk about. Caleb Williams and the Bears. Bears lost. I'm so happy about that.
Uh-huh.
I'm glad that they're not moving on. Just for so many reasons. But and even the Ben Johnson thing doesn't even. I'm done with that. Like whatever. I'm just they're in a division. I want them to lose. But Caleb Williams getting so much praise for this throw and stuff like that, and like people are like he's elite. The, are I don't understand what people are thinking. I mean, is it my Lions fandom that is clouding my judgment, or is this real that he should not be even close to this elite category?
You're asking the wrong person because I'm asking myself the same question. Caleb Williams completed 54% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And that second touchdown was a throw it up and pray on 4th down.
Yeah.
He's under pressure immediately, turns around and runs 10 yards behind him, and then just throws it up. He knows he's got Cole Kmet in single coverage. Cole Kmet's got a size advantage and is able to use it to, get a little shove, a little hand fighting or whatever. Not enough for pass interference. I didn't think it was pass interference, but
Yep.
enough that's what allowed him to get open.
Yep.
But then he also, he threw the pick in overtime that allowed the Rams to score.
Yeah.
And people just completely let that go. They let all his
Mm-hmm.
interceptions, they just let go. They chalk it up like, oh, it's whatever, trying to make something out of nothing. And there's people even saying now that he's already the best quarterback in the NFC North and that he's one of the top quarterbacks in the NFC because of that throw.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? What are we doing? That was not a good throw. Yes,
No.
it happened, but it happened because it had to. That was on 4th down.
Yeah.
If he made a Hail Mary from 60 yards away, are you going on and on about that throw that, bounced into 2 people's hands and the receiver caught it and you're like, thank God that he, no. What are we doing? I just don't. He cost them the game, right?
Yes.
I mean, the Rams could not adjust the cold and the Bears were playing pretty good defense for most of the game. Like Stafford was not making throws he normally makes.
Yes.
They sacked him 4 times. They just were not able. The first drive, the Bears threw a pick, Rams drive it down and score. And right away, I'm like, okay, this is exactly how I pictured this going. And then, the Rams failed to pull away. And then it felt like one of those, like, okay, what kind of late game magic? I would almost bet money that 4th down was going to be a touchdown because that's just what happens with the Bears. Yes. And then in overtime, the Rams get it first. They punt it to the Bears. And then I was like, well, in my head, I was already thinking like the Packers. I was like, at least I get to see the Rams lose a game that they should have won, and I can see Stafford go home and whatever. But then Caleb threw another pick, and then they, which is funny because I don't know if the second pick was Caleb's fault or DJ Moore's fault for just not running your route or not trying hard enough. But yeah, I don't understand the elite stuff for Caleb Williams. I was happy to see the Bears lose, of course, but now I really need the Rams to lose to the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm right with you there. As far as seeing the Rams lose, that would have been the only side benefit is that Stafford doesn't move on. And I like Stafford, but I cannot stomach if the Rams move on and win a Super Bowl before we get there after this whole trade and everything like that. I just can't deal with it. Yes, the 54% completion percentage. Like you don't need to do these late game heroics if you play good the whole game. You
right.
don't. And so it's ridiculous to me. And well, makes me mad about that last throw is the same crap that Jordan Love pulls, where they just throws off his back foot, throws up a prayer, and then somehow the receiver comes down with it, or they get a pass interference call or whatever. I'm with you. I don't think Cole Kmet did pass interference because they're hand fighting. I think Cole Kmet just had so much a size advantage that he used that to his advantage and was able to, displace a defender, to give him space. And I watched the all 22 to try to watch that. Now the video's pretty far away, so it's hard to see, but it nothing looks like egregious there. I think the defender kind of just gave up on the play and thought that Caleb Williams is going to be sacked. I think he hands fights and that doesn't fight strong enough to get back to that receiver. And
True.
I, I know you and I were watching it, at the same time, and the ball just goes high in the air, and I'm thinking, there's no way that there's someone at the end of this throw. Like, there's just no way. And then he's just sitting there wide open, and I'm like, what the hell? I cannot
Yeah.
believe this just happened. And then all of a sudden, everything changes. Caleb Williams, super elite. They're coupling this with that fourth down throw against the Packers the week prior, and then all of a sudden, he is just some sort of magical QB. No, 54 completion percentage. And then I saw, I don't know, Ryan Matthews posted this. He didn't say this, but he reposted this. Some people are equating it to the NBA where like people are realizing, well, shooting threes, you're better to shoot like 35% in threes than 40%, 45% from 2 pointers. Like that's what Caleb Williams is doing. He's taking his shots. Like that 54% completion percentage is because he's, gaining a whole bunch of yards at the end of the game. And my response to that is that's garbage. And next year, these throws aren't going to make it when they're playing a first place schedule and they're going to get decimated if they play the same way. I'm not saying they can't improve and take some of that out of his game and maybe play better throughout the whole game, but a lot of these endings were just luck and they just fell the Bears' way, which usually doesn't happen. I mean, the Bears are a downtrodden franchise like the Lions have, crap happen to them year after year. But Caleb Williams still didn't even throw for 4,000 yards in a 17-game season. How can you call him elite? No.
He's like 23rd in passer rating.
Yeah.
I think he's like top 10 in touchdowns and yards, but he's not even close to like the top 2 or 3 people. Like he's just not.
No.
And
I know
you look back on every single game, every single win, I guess, except for was it the Browns that they blew out, or almost every win though was like they're down with 2 minutes left to go. And it's like if the ball doesn't bounce their way, if they don't have 1 or 2 plays, all of a sudden you're looking at a team with like a top 5 draft pick.
Yes. No, 100%. And the thing is that, it's going to cloud people's judgment is with the YouTube generation, that he makes some throws that are great highlight throws. They're going to get that. You're going to get noticed. But the problem is that he can't make the normal throws. The in the pocket timing throws that make an offense move. He can't make those consistently, or at least he hasn't yet. And you can't call yourself elite if you can't do that. And like I said, you don't need to be Superman at the end of the game if you're, playing consistent the whole game. But yeah, I am so glad that interception happened in overtime because then we can just wipe that stupid pass. That's going to be a forgotten pass to history because, he threw that interception.
No,
they
it's
end up
not.
losing.
No, it's not. They're going to show that on every highlight that they're ever going to do. They've already forgotten the interception. They're still right now talking about how he's elite and that he's like top 5.
That's Bears
he's
fans.
Best in the NFC North. That's stuff I'm seeing in like national media though.
Yeah.
Maybe not in any reputable. I don't know if it was Ryan Clark or somebody like that said it. Maybe not in any great. No one whose opinions I really respect, but it's out there, and I fully believe that's going to be part of their highlight reels. Like they're going to show the Packers play, and they're going to show this one.
Yeah. Well, the Packers play end up winning the game.
Forget what happened right after this.
Exactly, and that'd be
the
my
thing.
Thing
is, had they went for 2, which I didn't think that they should. Like in my opinion, I think that they made the right call by going for 1 and playing in overtime. But had they went for 2 and got it, and the game ended like that, oh my God, it'd be even worse than it is now.
I know. Yeah, I did I text you ahead of time like go for 2? Like I think like I didn't know if I didn't say go for 2. I said, oh, it was early in the drive. I like, they get this. Or are they going for two? I know it was on my mind for sure. But we'll have
Right.
plenty of time to talk about Caleb Williams, and it'll be interesting to get get Harrison Graham, who we talked to about the Bears, on, and I want to know what his opinion is. Uh, and we'll have to deal with it all off season. The elite status. Let's move on to our
Yeah.
picks from last week, real quick. We talked about most of these games, so we'll kind of go through these pretty quickly. Bills at Broncos. I picked the Bills. You picked the Bills. Like you said, interception, which I do think is an interception. If it goes the other way, Bills probably win that. They still have their head coach. They're moving on this week. Did not happen. 49ers, Seahawks. Seahawks just obliterated the 49ers, and it started right away.
Yeah. That's how I
I don't
pictured
know
it
if you
going.
did you see that they are officially looking into the electrical substation
Oh
as a
yeah, yeah.
possible energy injury thing. And then I started thinking, I'm like, is there a substation around, you know, Allen Park or Ford Field where the Lions, practice or play? We need to look into that, Jacob.
Yeah, right. Let's see if they can find some sort of correlation between the two.
Yeah. Texans at Patriots. I picked the Texans. You picked the Patriots. Good job there. Yeah, I should have had the CJ Stroud factor in there, but didn't take account for that. And you got Rams and Bears. We talked about that. We both picked the Rams. And yep. All right. So that leads us to the conference championship game. First game of Sunday will be Patriots at Broncos. Would have loved to see Bo Nix in this because I think this would have been a really, really good matchup. Uh, who are you going with, Jacob? You going with the Patriots or are you going with Jared Stidham in the Broncos?
I am going with the Patriots in this one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
while I don't think that Bo Nix necessarily like elevates them, I don't know that the drop off is going to be too much between Bo Nix and Stidham. I think that Bo Nix is very good at like running the offense and doing what needs to be done and making the plays when he needs to make them. Um, I don't think that he's necessarily going to be like I would think the fall off, like if Jared Goff got hurt and we had to have our backup, the fall off is going to be tremendous and like almost it's going to be very hard for us to win. I don't know that it's going to be like that. I think the Broncos defense keeps him in the game, and I think Stidham, the Patriots have really good defense, but I think that he gets them moving, and they're at home and everything. I think it could be a closer game. I also think it could be a very low scoring game, but I do think the Patriots are going to win. What do
Yeah,
you got?
I'm gonna pick the Patriots too, but I don't think game is a gimme by any means. First of all, they've had a week to prepare. The defense knows this is going to be on their shoulder. This isn't like Bo Nix gets injured in the first quarter and you're scrambling. They've had a week to prepare. The defense knows that they're going to have to play an amazing game, so they'll be up on there. Sean Payton's a good coach. I'm sure he's going to have a good game plan going in. John Morton will figure it all out. He is their linchpin, right? No, I still go with the Patriots, but I think this is going to be a better game than people are thinking. What is the spread on that? What was it? 4.5 Patriots.
Four and a
Um,
half.
yeah, I think that it's a pick 'em if Bo Nix is in, or the Broncos might be favored by one or something like that. But since Bo Nix is out, the Patriots are getting the 4.5. The other game, which I am really looking forward to, I do work this weekend, but I only work till 5, so I will not miss any part of the second game, and I'm super excited about that. Rams Seahawks, think it's going to be a battle. You got the division battle there. They've already faced each other twice. This will be the third time. I'm going with Seattle in this one, and part of it is just because I can't stomach the Rams, like we discussed earlier. I cannot stomach them winning. If Stafford is on, though, man, I could see the Seahawks losing in this one, but I'm going to go with the Seahawks in this game. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. Uh, I am also picking the Seahawks. Like I don't want the Rams to win, and I feel like Sam Darnold deserves this. Deserves to have a game. Like the defense is so good. They're at home.
Mhm.
Like it's weird that like we might be already like Patriots Seahawks rematch in the Super Bowl.
I know.
Or if the Broncos and Seahawks make it, that'd be a rematch too,
Yes.
right? And the Seahawks beat the
No,
Broncos in the
I
Super Bowl.
was Yeah, I was gonna talk to you about that here in a second. That was one of my thoughts.
Yeah. I would much of these four teams that are there. I think I would most like the Seahawks to win.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm
I
with
would say
them. They're
Seahawks, Patriots, Broncos, Rams in that order of the teams that I would want to win.
Yep, I'm
So with
tired of the
that being
Patriots.
said, it'll probably be Broncos versus Rams.
Yeah, then the I don't want the Patriots to win because they should be out. I think the Rams, they've already won. I don't like that. Yeah, if the Seahawks win, then it's going to be a rematch of a fairly recent Super Bowl, and obviously totally different teams. No repeating there, but it pisses me off as a Lions fan that these franchises make to multiple Super Bowls and we're not there yet. So I get really mad about that kind of stuff. As I think
Yeah,
a lot of Lions fans do. We just feel like we
of
get
course.
slighted. Um, and but that being said, the Michigan connection with the Seahawks, um, and just the whole Sam Darnold underdog type thing. The fact that Bo Nix got hurt makes me want to root for a little bit for the Broncos. The whole like what you said, the Nick Foles situation, underdog. That would be cool too to just see. That'd be a great story. But yes, the Rams need to implode. Stafford could throw 3 picks. I don't care. I just want the Rams. The Rams need to lose. Seahawks defense is legit though, and if they could get pressure with 4 on Stafford, that's going to be the key. I think that what was interesting last week, and I think the weather played into this, is the Bears decided to blitz Stafford, and usually Stafford kills the blitz, but he got injured in that ring finger or his middle finger. I'm not sure which one in that Panthers game, and I really think with that coupled with the cold really affected his throws. If he's back on it, this upcoming week, it might be enough to neutralize the Seahawks. But if Sam Darnold doesn't turn it over a bunch, I think the Seahawks win this game.
And a game like this is kind of like the ultimate, coaching battle too, right? Because you've seen them several times all year. You've been keeping a
Yes.
close eye on this team all year long, and now here you are. Like, what adjustments are you going to be able to make? What
Hmm.
tricks do you have up your sleeve? Obviously, the players still need to execute, but I mean, when you're this deep into it, you're counting on them to be able to execute the way that you want. Is your game plan going to be good enough? Are you going to be able to adjust at what the other team is doing?
The X factor is that it is in Seattle. The crowd is
Right.
huge factor in that game. So that could be enough to push them over. I mean, Stafford's pretty good with the communication stuff like that, but it might be just enough, or you get the false start at the right time, or a delay game.
Right.
Like a small penalty like that could be huge. So we'll see. I'm really looking forward to it. I am assuming the Rams Seahawks game is the game that you're most looking forward to seeing too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I'll have to send you this video later when I find it. But it would just remind me when you sent it, it was like it was a parody, like a comedy thing, but it was like a Patriots fan, and he was talking about it. He was like, "Dude, it's been so long since we've
Oh,
been
yeah.
here. Like, thank God." And he was like, "Do you know?" He was like, "There are kids that are like 7 years old right now that have never seen us win a Super Bowl." And it was just like funny references to like the all the stuff
Mhm.
lately. It was actually good.
That's pretty
Not
good.
great, like
Yeah.
you said, as Lions fans, but yeah, it was funny.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. Send it to me when you get it. So,
Yeah,
so our 30-minute episode turned into an hour 5. We could talk,
as
I
they always
guess.
do.
But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Those listen to us. Obviously we're a Lions channel, but this is exciting football time of the year, talking playoffs and stuff like that. So we'll probably, we'll do this, at least one more time with the Super Bowl coming up. And then it's going to be full on off season talk. We'll be, getting into free agent talk. We're gonna try to get more guests in here during this time and just get other people's point of view. It's fun for you, the listener. It's fun for us to talk to other people. So some people you've heard before. We're gonna try to get some, maybe some newer voices on here. We'll see how that all that works out. But we appreciate everyone that's listened to us along the way, and look forward to this another good weekend of playoff football. Fortunately, it's without the Lions, but
Right.
for that guy over there, he's Jacob. I'm Jason.